Hello class, so we are now in 1.3 of this course, Environmental Science, and we're going to talk about the principles of sustainable tourism and hospitality. So this is a continuation with our previous discussion. Um, we're going to talk about the comprehensive approach to travel and accommodation that will balances the environmental protection as well as on the cultural preservation and economic benefits for local communities. So it will create an experience that can be sustained for generations to come. So this is not just only in our generation in 21st century, but also to the generations to come. So these are the three areas that is important for sustainable tourism and hospitality: the environmental, social, and economics. So, what is sustainable tourism? As defined by UNEP and UNWTO, sustainable tourism carefully balances these three important areas: the economic, social, and environmental impacts, to ensure long term viability and resilience. By the way, the meaning of this uh, UNEP, it stands as United Nations Environment Program. So it is the United Nations agency that is responsible for coordinating global environmental activities. They also promote sustainable development and guiding environmental policy among member countries. So Philippines is one of the member of this United Nations Environment Program. Also, the UNWTO, it stands as the United Nations World Tourism Organization, which is Philippines is one of the member of this organization. So this UN agency is responsible also for promoting responsible, sustainable, and universal accessible tourism. It also provides guidance, research, and policy recommendations to boost tourism worldwide. And the tourism or the sustainable tourism also has a it also minimizes negative impacts. Okay, it reduces environmental damage. Overcrowding means that there's a lot of tourism on a particular tourist sites, and also cultural disruption that can harm destinations. So there are some certain areas, for example, have this cultural heritage. So by applying the sustainable tourism, it minimizes the negative impacts or disruption or disturbance of that particular cultural heritage. Also, because of the sustainable tourism, it maximizes the positive benefits. So, the examples of the positive benefits of the sustainable tourism, it creates meaningful jobs. When a certain sites will improve or will enhance, there are many job opportunities will arise on that particular location. It also preserves cultural heritage, okay, because of um, there's a numbers of tourists will visit on the particular heritage site, so they will preserve that heritage because they have this positive of or has a positive impact or benefits of arrivals on that particular cultural heritage. So the government or any individual will preserve that particular heritage. And also it generates revenue that stays in our local communities. So since there are many tourists that will visit on that particular site, the tourist will expectedly pays rent, for example, rental car, rental vehicle, or motorcycle, and other products they will buy on it within that local community or that local areas. So these are the three important areas that the sustainable or sustainability considered, the three bottom lines. we have the economic, social, and environmental. So let's start again. Sustainable tourism operates at the intersection of three equally important dimensions. As we have discussed a while ago, these three equally important dimensions: the economic, social, and environmental. But let's start with the social. It affects local culture, community well, and promote fair practices. Also, for the economic, it generates local income, reduce economic leakage, and ensure equitable distribution. What do you mean by it reduce economic leakage? It refers to the loss of money from a local economy for example, when income generated in that area, for example, from tourism, business, or trade, flows out to other regions or countries instead of being retained and circulated locally. So, in simpler terms, it's when a money earned in a community doesn't stay there to benefit local businesses or residents. Okay, so by applying this sustainability, it reduces economic leakage. Okay, so the income intended for that particular area will be remain okay. So examples of the economic leakage are tourists staying in international hotel chains where profits go abroad. Another thing, imported goods being sold locally. So money leaves the local economy to pay for the foreign producers. The third example is foreign-owned companies repatriating profits instead of reinvesting in the local community. Okay, so for example, if there's an opportunity to earn or to gain an income on that particular area, but instead the intended money for that area was spent from other region or from other places. So that is called economic leakage. But if we will apply the sustainability, hospitality and tourism sustainability, it will reduce this economic leakage. So the impact for this, when there is a reduce the positive economic effect of local industry or tourism, and also it limits the local job creation and development. So the sustainability will help to reduce the economic leakage. There's also a term here or phrases, ensure equitable distribution. So what do you mean by equitable distribution? It means that making sure that the resources, benefits, or opportunities are shared fairly among all people or groups, rather than being concentrated in the hands of a few. So, in a practical terms, everyone has a fair access to goods, also the services or opportunities, example, income, education, healthcare, or tourism benefits. Also, it reduces inequality and promotes social and economic justice. So, for example, in tourism, ensuring equitable distribution could mean that local communities benefit from tourism spending, not just big corporations or foreign investors. Also, in economic policy, it could mean taxes or social programs are designed so that the poor and marginalized also gain, not just the wealthy. Okay, so um, the term equitable distribution has a difference between the equally distributed. Okay, equitable or equity is different from equally. Okay, so we will make some uh, comparison between the equity and equally. So if we will relate this one to tourism and local economy, for the equal distribution, for example, a local government collects 1 million in tourism taxes and decides to give each barangay the same amount, says, for example, 100,000 each. regardless of how many tourists visit or the size of the barangay. So this is equal, but not necessarily fair. So a barangay with more tourists or um, bigger barangay that has more tourists needs may find 100,000 insufficient. Okay, equally distributed, but it is not fair. But when we say equitable distribution, for example, the government decides to allocate funds based on tourist arrivals and local needs. So the barangay that host more tourists or have greater development needs receive more funds, while smaller or less visited barangay receive less. So that is equitable. So this ensures that the money is distributed fairly, supporting sustainable growth and benefiting those who contribute more to the tourism economy. So equal threats everyone the same, but equitable threats everyone fairly according to circumstances. So in other words, equitable is better than equal. Okay, equity is better than equal. Next, the third bottom line of sustainability is environmental protection natural resources, reduce carbon footprints, conservation water and energy. What do you mean by reduce carbon footprint? It means that taking action to lower the total amount of greenhouse gases, especially the carbon dioxide, the CO2, that releases into the atmosphere as a result of human activities. So, in simpler terms, it's producing less pollution that contributes to climate change. So, there are different ways to reduce the carbon footprints. First is the energy use. Okay, so the managers of the particular establishment may use renewable energy like solar panel or windmill. So they will turn off unused appliances and improve energy efficiency. By doing that, it will reduce the greenhouse gases. Um, another thing for reducing the carbon footprints is for in the area of transportations. Instead of using vehicle, we're going to walk. Okay, at the same time we have an exercise and also bike, and we will use public transportation instead of our private car, or drive fuel efficient or electric vehicles like in the Tesla cars. Another thing to reduce the greenhouse or the carbon footprints in the area of consumption, for example, we will buy local products and reduce meat consumptions. Okay, so it will minimize the waste. Lastly, in the area of sustainable practices, we will have uh, involved in an activity such as tree planting, also recycling waste, and we will support eco-friendly businesses. If there's a certain businesses that has an eco-friendly products or services, we need to avail on that or buy a certain products. So by doing that, we will support those eco-friendly businesses and it will minimizes the carbon footprints. For example, if we'll relate this into the context of in the hotel industry, a hotel reduces its carbon footprint by using solar panels, energy efficient lighting, and encouraging guests to reuse towels instead of washing them daily. Okay, so there are different examples as I've mentioned also in our previous discussion. So the key ideas here is reducing carbon footprints helps fight climate change. Okay, again, reducing carbon footprints helps to fight the climate change, and it also promotes a more sustainable lifestyle or business. So when all these three dimensions are in harmony, tourism becomes truly sustainable. Now let's proceed to the rule of hospitality in sustainable tourism. First, eco-friendly operations. Implementing energy efficiency measures, emer- ener- energy efficiency measures, waste reduction systems, and water conservation technologies throughout facilities. Next, rule of hospitality in sustainable tourism, local economic support. As I mentioned a while ago, sourcing ingredients, products, and services from local producers instead of sourcing it from other regions or areas. Also creating economic multiplier effects in host communities. And lastly, cultural preservation of offering authentic experiences that celebrate and sustain local traditions, architecture, and heritage. We can also observe that in Bohol. Okay, so we have um, many heritage sites and traditions that preserved by a private individual or our government because the tourist, example, the foreign tourists would like to visit and to observe and also to experience our natural or traditional, for example, activities or architecture, buildings. Okay, so there are also key sustainable hospitality practices. There are three. So let's start with the green operations. It calls green operations. Example for this one is the energy efficient LED lighting. Okay. Number two, renewable energy systems. Third one, smart water saving fixtures and digital key cards and paperless options. I know that you are familiar with these four, but I will emphasize on the smart water saving fixtures. These are the plumbing devices designed to reduce water usage efficiently, often using modern technology to minimize waste without compromising performance. So technology is really an helpful tool to practice the sustainable hospitality. Okay. So the example for the smart water saving fixtures are low flow faucets and shower heads. So we will use less water while maintaining the pressure. Second one, dual flush toilets, allowing choosing between small or large flush depending on need. That is why when you observe on the toilet, for example, in public or in private, for example, in hotel or malls, or even in your house, there are two buttons, okay, on the toilet. There are for smaller, and there are also for larger flush, okay, depending on the needs. If you're just only to pee, okay, you will just use the small button, okay. So we need to practice that. But for the Filipino practices or traditional way, even though we just only pee, we will push the two buttons. So that is not a good practices. Now the third one is sensor operated taps. So there is automatically turn on and turn off, okay, to prevent unnecessary water flow. The fourth one is the smart irrigation system. For example, the green or the gray water ways water plants based on the soil moisture or weather conditions. So the benefits for this is it reduces water consumption and utility bills. Okay, you can save the expenses for the electricity and we can reduce the water consumption. Also, it conserves natural water resources. Okay, and also it supports sustainable building and tourism practices. So example for this in the hotel industry, the hotel installs sensor-operated faucets and dual flush toilets to save water and reduce in environmental impacts. The second key sustainable hospitality practices is food sustainability. Okay, this one, food sustainability. We have here farm to table. We also have food waste tracking and reduction. We also have plant forward menu options and composting programs. We will discuss further about the farm to table sourcing, from farm to table sourcing. It refers to a practice where the restaurants, hotels, or food businesses get their ingredients directly from local farms, okay, rather than through the large distributors or imports. So the particular hotel restaurants supports local farmers, okay, instead of buying from um, large distributors or suppliers. So the key points for this is it promotes freshness of the ingredients since food travels a shorter distance from farm to plate. Okay. Number two, it supports local farmers and the community economically. Okay. Instead that the money of the particular business will give to other businesses or suppliers from other regions, the local farmers will gain on that particular income. Okay, so it will helps also the local community and the local often associated with sustainable and national food practices. Example is a restaurant will buy vegetables directly from nearby farms and serves them in its restaurant. So this ensures fresh, high quality meals with helping local farmers earn income. So the benefits for this is farm to table sourcing reduces transportation costs, okay, because they will directly buy from the local farmers. It lower carbon footprints, as we have discussed a while ago, and also it strengthens the local economy. The third key sustainable hospitality practices is the waste management. Example for this one, eliminating single-use plastics, comprehensive recycling systems, bulk toiletry dispensers, and responsible e-waste disposal. Okay, so let's just only talk about the responsible e-waste disposal. It means that properly managing and discarding electronic waste. So it is called e-waste, electronic waste, in a way that minimizes harm to environment and human health. So example for the e-waste includes old computers, phones, TVs, batteries, and other electronic devices. So the key practices for responsible e-waste disposal, first, we have recycling, sending old electronics to certified recyclers who safely recover metals and components. Number two, donation or reuse. Okay, giving working devices to schools, NGOs, or people in need instead of throwing them away. Okay, or in the dump site. So donating the old computers and other devices. Safe disposal. Ensuring hazardous materials like lead, mercury, and cadmium don't contaminate soil or water. Fourth, manufacturer take-back programs. It means that returning devices to companies that have a proper recycling or disposal systems. Okay. One also good practices in the Handa resource in Handa, they will donate the their old supplies. I know not supplies, materials, for example, bed sheets, um old kitchenware to the schools or to other small businesses. Okay, instead of dumping it to the garbage or dumping site, they will donate this one to other institution or organization. So example here, a hotel replaces old computers and sends them to an e-waste recycling facility instead of just dumping them in the landfill and reducing environmental pollutions. So the benefits for this, the responsible e-waste disposal helps protect the environment, okay? Not just protecting the environment, but also conserve resources, okay? Because other people also benefit of this, example donations, and promote sustainable practices. Now, let's proceed to the responsible travel ethical tourism. Sustainable tourism is not just about business, it requires mindful behavior from travelers too, not just only in the side of the business owner, but also on the travelers. First, it minimizes impact, reducing waste. Okay, this is for the travelers. Reducing waste, conserving water and energy, using public transport instead of using your private car, and staying on a trail, exploring natural areas. Second one, support local. Instead of buying from foreign-owned business, okay, or store, as a traveler, we need to also support local. Choosing locally owned accommodations, restaurants, and tour operators that employ local people and reinvest in the community. The third one, respect culture. When you visit a certain sites, okay, learning local customs, asking permission before taking photos. By doing that, you respect the people there and dressing appropriately. Okay, so I observe also there are different tourists who did not respect the people in that particular community and also the tourism site. For example, in Anda, I also observed that in the old church there, there are some also tourists who enter the church and they are wearing swimming attire. Okay, so that's not an appropriate. So as a tourist, we need to dress appropriately depending on the sites that we enter and avoiding activities that exploits people or wildlife. So let's proceed to the global standards, the GSTC framework. GST, GSTC stands for Global Sustainable Tourism Council. It provides the world's definitive framework for sustainable practices built on four pillars. So we're going to discuss about the four pillars built by the GSTC. So we have here sustainable management, socioeconomic impacts, cultural impacts, and environmental impacts. For sustainable management, legal compliance, staff training, customer satisfaction, accurate marketing, and integrated planning. As to social economic impacts, local prosperity, social well-being, fair employment, and responsible purchasing practices. For cultural impacts, cultural heritage protection, visitor behavior guidelines, and property rights at respects. Lastly, environmental impacts, resource conservation, pollution reduction, biodiversity preservation, and ecosystem protection. So these standards are usually globally for certification programs, government policies, and educational frameworks, and it creates a common language for sustainability. So why sustainability matters in tourism and hospitality? Okay, because there is an urgency for the environment. Example, tourism accounts for approximately 5% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, tourism and hospitality industry add up on the global greenhouse gas emissions, with protection showing a staggering 130% increase by 2035 if current trends continues. But if we will practice the sustainability, we can minimize this percentage. So what are the benefits, especially in the field of business? It reduces operational costs through efficiency. It enhances brand reputation and guest loyalty. It has an alignment with evolving traveler preferences, and we have regulatory compliance and risk mitigation. So these are example of graphs of the percentage of travelers considering sustainability when booking 2010 to 2023. It goes higher as the years increases. Okay, so I think this is the last slide. Challenges and opportunities ahead. First, beyond greenwashing. Moving from superficial sustainability claims to authentic, measurable practices embedded in core business strategy and corporate governance. We also have a challenge like ambitious targets, setting science-based emissions reduction goals rather than relying primarily on carbon offsets. in alignment with global climate agreements. And lastly, tech-enabled sustainability. Leveraging IoT sensors, AI, artificial intelligence, blockchain, and big data to measure impact, optimize resource use, and communicate transparent sustainability performance. We'll just explain here the leveraging IoT sensors. It means that using the IoT or Internet of Things, this technology to improve processes, efficiency, or decision making. So the IoT refers to a network of connected devices and sensors that collect, send, and receive data over the internet. So there are different key points about leveraging the IoT. First, data-driven decisions. So using the real-time data from IoT devices to optimize operations. The second one, automation. Controlling devices automatically based on sensor data. Example, the smart thermostats. The third one, efficiency and cost savings. Monitoring energy, water, or equipment used to reduce waste. And lastly, enhance experiences. In businesses like tourism or hospitality, the IoT or Internet of Things can improve customer comfort and services. So example here in the hotel leverages the IoT by using smart sensors. Example to adjust room temperature automatically. Instead of the person or the guest will set up the temperature, there is an Internet of Things. It is a smart sensors that it will automatically adjust the temperature. So by doing that, it will save the energy. It will also track energy use and alert staff to maintenance needs, improving efficiency and guest satisfaction. In short, leveraging the IoT is about making the most of connected devices to optimize performance, save resources, and enhance experiences. Okay, so I think we also have the last slide here. Building a sustainable future together. So there is a hierarchy here. Let's start with the most important part, the policy frameworks. So the government establishing incentives and regulation that support sustainable development. So the business owner will force to follow the regulations because there is some consequences, negative consequences. At the same time, you will have an incentives. For example, we have this less of the taxes if a particular business applied eco-friendly operations. The next is the community engagement. So local populations actively participating in tourism planning and benefits, not just the business owners, but there's also an engagement to the local community. The next is business leadership. So the companies implementing sustainable practices and innovations like the use of other technology. And lastly, in the top is the individual actions, travelers making responsible choices. So this is not just only part of the business owners, but the travelers or the guests also have a part to apply the said sustainable tourism and hospitality. So this is the end of my discussion, and you can review the online lecture and then answer the evaluation and not the online quiz via Google Form. Thank you.